All right, guys, now we want to talk about credit card utilization. And credit card utilization is my favorite of the credit factors because it is absolutely the one factor that can manipulate your score up or down very, very quickly. And I want to explain to you why. So if you look at credit card utilization, it shows you the sliding scale as to what your utilization factor is and the impact it has on your credit score. If you have 0 to 9% utilization rate, you will actually get points on your credit report. So your score, if you make your utilization, let's just say, for example, your utilization is 20% and you bring it down to 5%, and I've recently read that 3 is the magic number. If you bring your utilization factor down below 9% or 9% or lower, you get points on your credit score. It's actually like they're rewarding you for keeping low utilization. If you're at 10% to 29%, it's not helping your score, but it's also not hurting your score. So most people, they'll say stay below 30%. That's good, but in my opinion, that's like saying, okay, get a 75 in school so you're just barely passing. It doesn't necessarily benefit you. And if you're a C student, you're not getting the best jobs, just like you're not getting the best preferential treatment in loans or in any kind of credit card rewards by just barely getting a good utilization score. If you go 30% or higher on your utilization factor, guys, this negatively impacts your score. It causes your score to drop. And if you're at 50% or even higher, it's going to hurt your score almost as badly as if you missed a payment. I'm going to give a quick story or scenario. I had a client, he had a $300 credit card and a $400 balance. It was $418. We put it through one of the credit simulators and it said if you would simply pay that card down to 13 bucks, he was paying $405 on the card, his score was going to go up. It was 100 points or more across all 3 bureaus. That's how important it is. And guys, that happens in 30 days. So he pays that down within 30 to 45 days. The next time it reports to the bureaus, his score was going to go up 100 points. Now, some people will think that's a miracle. It's not a miracle. It's just understanding credit factors and how they work. Now, if you look at my utilization, I want to point something out to you real quickly. With TransUnion, it's going to show 6% utilization, $12,100 in debt, and $187,000 in available credit. Now, of the $12,000 in debt, I have $9,500 with Raymore and Flanagan. I just bought a house a couple months ago. I got a credit card, which I thought was actually a line of credit through Raymore and Flanagan. I got a $15,000 credit card and I put $12,000 on it. That made my utilization factor on that card 77%. And guess what? My score dropped 20 points. Now again, it's the Vantage score that dropped, but my Vantage score dropped 20 points only because one card was at 77% utilization. My overall utilization went to 9%, and that caused my score to drop. But I want to show you something else regarding this. If you go to Equifax, you're going to see 8% utilization. It's 2% higher. It's the same total balance of $12,100, but my total limit is only $158,000. The difference in that, guys, I'm scrolling down here to the bottom. If you see, there's a Barclays card from Delaware. It's got a, I'm sorry, that's not the correct one. There's a Barclays card on here. I don't know if it moved. It was on here. Anyway, there's a Barclays card on here that is for, oh, it's not on here. I'm sorry, it's going to be on this one over here. You're going to see the Barclays card here for $29,000. It's not over here. The reason why? My dad made me an authorized user back in 1995 when I went to college. So I'm getting credit for that. That's why I have a higher utilization on Equifax and I have less available credit. Now, if I come back to here, I want to show you guys. Raymore and Flanagan still at 63%. Remember, this is 0% interest for 18 months. It's the only reason I carry a balance on this card. Every other card that you see here, my Citi cards, that's a $9,000 limit. That's $571. That's my Costco card. I have a $10,000 limit on one of my American Express cards. That's a $600 balance. That's 6%. And that's just because I've made some purchases. Again, it all depends on when it reports. On every single one of these cards, from Citi all the way down, 6%, 6%, 3%, 3%, 2%, 1%. Guys, all these cards, I carry no balances on a monthly basis. Now, what's also not showing up on here, if you look at this $187,000 in available credit, or even over here where I have $158,000, I want to make note of something. I have 2 American Express personal charge cards. Each charge card has the spending power of $45,000. Between the 2 cards, that's an additional $90,000 of available credit that I have available to me. Now, with the charge cards, if I spend $10,000 at the end of the month, I have to pay that $10,000 back. But it's not going to show as a revolving account. So if you're looking to build credit, you want to make sure to get credit cards along with a couple charge cards, because the revolving charge card or the revolving credit cards are what's going to impact your credit factor of credit card utilization. It's extremely important to know that there is definitely a difference between charge cards, which you have to pay the balance every month. Now, Amex has now come out with some new, pay over time features where you can pay something over 3 months. I think if it's over $100 or if it's over $200, you get to pay it over 3 months, which is great. But here's the point, guys. You still want to make sure you're not carrying balances unless it's an emergency or unless it's 0% interest. Okay? Or if you get very low interest for an introductory period, that's okay as well. But remember, paying interest is the cancer for your finances. You simply don't want to do it. But if you look here, I also want to point out, we talked about payment history. When you look at some of these cards, I'm going to just look at some of the cards, you see the payment history. Now remember, this is one card. Every dot represents a positive on-time payment. If I have one card, I get 12 payments at the end of the year. If I have a whole bunch, let's find another one that's a long card that I've had for a while. State Farm. This was my first credit card that I got after 6 or 7 years not being able to get a credit card. State Farm was the first card I got. And I got this card back in February of 2013. Look at all those payments. Now you can go through any single one of my cards and you can see the payment history. Guys, this is why it's so important. This is the card that I just got. This is my Costco card. When I moved, Costco is down the street, so I bought that. I started my first American Express card February 24th, 2018. Not that I'm counting, guys, but I was so proud when I got the Platinum card. That just really started me on this credit journey, and now I want to teach you guys. So remember, you want to stay absolutely at 9% or less. The magic number is 3. In order to get 3 to 5%, you have to do one of 2 things. You either have to have multiple accounts or have high limits on the accounts that you have, or one of the secrets that I like to tell everybody is, in order to maintain low utilization, guys, this is the absolute key. Pay your credit cards every 2 weeks. If you make any major purchases or large purchases, pay it at the end of the week. You shouldn't be spending credit cards or buying things on credit cards if you don't have the money in your checking or savings account. And what I always tell people, to manage your utilization factor and to always make sure you never miss a payment, it's a great idea to start making your payments every 2 weeks. It's a great way for you to keep utilization low. It makes the banks very happy. I started off with American Express with a $15,000 credit limit. The charge cards. Over a course of a year and 6 months, I went from $15,000 to $45,000. Why? Because I show American Express I'm extremely responsible and I always make my payments on time. I never let my debt run away from me, so therefore they feel comfortable in giving me more and higher limits. And the last credit card that I got from American Express was the new Bonvoy card, which at the time when I originally applied, it was the SPG card. They gave me a $20,000 limit for the regular revolving credit. So when you look on here, in fact, I'll even try to see if it shows. It should show in here. There it is. American Express. I've had it almost a year. $20,000 limit, guys. That's not even showing the 2 charge cards. Anyway, now that we talked about credit card utilization, I want to go into the next factor, which I think is the next most important factor, and that is the average age of credit history. So we'll dive into that next.